Even on the longest days of the year, Amy hopefully is already up and working when the sun rises over her Fonda farm. Little Jacob swings between a dozen cows during 6 a.m. milking. And her husband handles the farm while she works a full-time sales job in her home office until 5. Then she's back out to the barn until 8 p.m. That's a 15-hour day, and every day of hard work, the farm is losing money. When the milk check comes in, it doesn't even cover the cost to produce the milk.
There's things we'd like to do, repairs, new buildings. All that gets put off in times like this, and we just focus on taking care of our girls. Taking care of the 75 girls is Amy's dream job. She just bought this farm 2 years ago, but already, some days, she regrets it. The hopefully say they couldn't sell the farm even if they wanted to. It wouldn't be enough to cover the debt. Nobody's buying dairy right now anyway. There are farmers who have sold all their cows and some of their equipment, and they're still in the hole. This is it.
Yeah, so this is our main milk cow barn. Used to be filled with 250 cows.
Those cows are gone now, sold last summer. It's eerie to see the empty stalls and motionless fans, the bushes growing up over all those awards they won for the quality of their milk. The roots of farming run so far back, there's a blue sign out front.
You know, I sit down with a $25,000 milk check, you know, and I have $38,000 worth of bills. Every 2 weeks, it just doesn't work.
LaGrange can't control what he's paid for his milk. The federal government sets the price using a complicated formula. It isn't connected to what you pay in stores for a gallon. For consumers, a gallon of milk costs about the same as it did in 2003. In 2014, farmers' prices hit a high, but they dropped about 30% in 2015 and stayed there. Farmers are getting out. There are 20% fewer dairy farms today in New York than even 10 years ago, but about the same number of cows. 4,400 farms left are producing more milk. The state says the average cow today produces more than double the amount she was producing in 1970.
We're going to figure this out.
State Ag Commissioner Richard Ball says that's the problem. Too much milk. Dairy exports are down 3 to 4%. And with tariff talk ramping up, Ball is worried about an even bigger hit. He says the exodus of farmers doesn't have to continue, but he says dairy farmers need to look in the mirror.
Who's our customer? And what do they want? And are we meeting their needs? And I think this is where the dairy industry in particular has kind of gotten separated. We've been so good at what we do in production that we don't think about the consumer or what they want.
Still, the state is trying to get New Yorkers to buy more dairy through marketing and school programs. And in the past 2 years, the state has put $50 million into plants making dairy products with a longer shelf life, like cheese and butter. Ball says he's optimistic about the long term.
You know, today I'm more excited than I've ever been about the future of agriculture.
Back on the empty farm, LaGrange isn't as excited.
This is getting bad.
He says there's no bringing farmland back from asphalt.
You know, we need the local farmer, not only for the product, but for the local economy. And that whole picture has to be understood. And I'm worried that it's getting too late.
LaGrange has a desk job now. He's the town supervisor. His old herd is spread out among fewer, likely much bigger farms. The Hopefullys are still hanging on in one of the few places where the cows are still known by names and not just numbers. Asa Stackel, News Channel 13.
I got arrested on the 8th.
William Morris has been in the Albany County Jail for a month. His bail was set at $6,000, and he's still there because he doesn't have the money.
I went to Hannaford's and Latham Farms with my girlfriend, and we attempted to steal $170 worth of steaks and shrimp to get drugs.
Surf and turf won't land you in prison, but it'll put you in county jail. That means Morris will miss his appointment to get into a rehab facility. He won't be looking for a job, and he won't be on the outside preparing his defense.
Let's say that fellow you just interviewed, his court date gets canceled in 3 weeks. He could sit here for another 3, 6, 7 months.
Being charged with a crime is a much different experience for others. Back in 2012, Chris Porco was charged for the axe murder of his father. But unlike Morris, charged with petty larceny, Porco walked free after posting $250,000 bail. He was eventually convicted. Governor Cuomo took on bail in his State of the State this year.
Too often, if you can make bail, you are set free, and if you are too poor to make bail, you are punished.
Sheriff Apple says about half the people in his jail are here on misdemeanors and haven't paid their bail. If the governor's proposal went through, all those people, plus some charged with felonies, would be walking out the doors.
The proposal, which I believe...
As Albany County's prosecutor, District Attorney David Soares suggests bail amounts to the judge. He says the governor's proposal to eliminate monetary bail for misdemeanors and nonviolent felonies would completely change the criminal justice system.
We do see abuses in bail being set, and we want an end to that. But the end to that is not to just put together a policy that creates presumptive release, you know, on 85% of the offenses in the penal law.
Soares says there needs to be a reason for those charged to come back to court. He knows what can happen already when defendants skip town or commit another crime. After being released without having to pay bail, 64-year-old Richard Quinn stabbed a man to death in June of last year.
Person was on probation, had violated probation, was arrested again. And our office, even though it was a misdemeanor, our office asked for specifically high bail in order to keep that individual in. The judge released that individual on his own recognizances. That individual within the week murdered another man on Grand Street.
Back at the jail, Sheriff Apple is for bail reform, but not the governor's broad proposal.
A quantity of heroin being sold or a quantity of cocaine being sold. Do you think that person's going to come back to court knowing that they owe the state now? Could be upwards to 10 or 12 years.
Then there's the money. Apple says it costs $66,000 a year to jail an inmate. The proposal would cut down on the jail population, but the probation department might have to pick up the slack. Soares worries about paying U.S. Marshals to chase down people who skip their court dates.
I've been trying for the last 5 months.
The 33-year-old Morris says he has 2 felonies, 10 misdemeanors, and a number of failure to appear in courts. That surely went into the judge's reasoning to set his bail high. Morris says now he's stuck in a cycle.
You're kind of forced into taking a plea because you want to get out of jail. Nobody wants to sit in this jail. This isn't fun. So you sit here, and the moment they say, all right, plead guilty to this, or take probation, or do whatever, you're so eager to get out, you're ready to, I'd cut my pinky finger off if they said I could get out. That's how desperate you feel in this situation.
Soares is the president-elect of the State DA Association. He says lawmakers and the governor need to have an open discussion if they are serious about bail reform. We wanted to talk to the governor about this, but his office declined an interview. Asa Stackel, News Channel 13. Jim, 856 young retirees asked the state permission this year to collect both a state pension and a full-time government salary. We got the list thanks to the Empire Center, and we found millions of pension dollars being paid out to people who aren't really retired. Some people call it double dipping, and the size of these dips might surprise you.
They're all earning pensions somewhere hovering around the $100,000 mark, and then they're probably drawing down salaries somewhere around the $100,000 mark.
That's right. The top so-called double dippers are getting around $200,000 a year, plus state benefits, and we found plenty of them using see-through New York. A special investigator for the Suffolk County District Attorney is making $155,000 a year plus a $64,000 pension. The North Hempstead Commissioner of Parks is making $125,000 plus a $72,000 pension. And around here, the former SUNY Cobleskill police chief is a top earner. He got to go ahead to make $110,000 last year plus a $37,000 pension. This isn't anything shady, it is completely legal. State retirees who go back to work with the government before their 65th birthday can apply for something called a 211 waiver. Without the waiver, state law requires yearly income to be capped at $30,000 if you still want to collect your pension. If you work in the private sector, there are no limits on pension or paycheck. The waiver is meant to temporarily fill a position until managers find a qualified and not yet retired person to take the job. But sometimes that temporary solution turns into a long-term fix. According to records, the SUNY Cobleskill chief had a 211 waiver granted for 10 years. So what's the problem with pulling down a state pension and a full-time state salary at the same time? Maybe with all that experience, you are uniquely qualified to come back as an expert. And you earned that pension, right? Well, the Empire Center says it's still not okay.
The state constitution guarantees that we're going to pay public service retirees in perpetuity a benefit that we have given them. People in the public sector, people in the private sector, like me and probably like you, have 401ks where we're contributing on a monthly basis. When we leave service with the organization that we work for, their liability for us ends. In public service, that doesn't happen.
It's something that we hear when we're knocking on doors. People go, is that legalized double dipping?
Greene County's Aidan O'Connor is running for assembly. He thinks doing away with 211 waivers would help stop the exodus of young talent.
A lot of young people want to stay here and work here, but you have people who are taking up positions who have been in public office for 30, 40, 50 years or public employment.
Chris Tague is currently the incumbent in that assembly district. He thinks it's wrong for anyone to take a 211 waiver. But being a former town supervisor, he understands how local governments could save local taxpayers money offering a job to a retiree.
Because they can hire somebody for a lower amount of money, but on the other hand, it's still costing the state more because the person's collecting both out of a pension plus out of there.
So there are two who say they're against the 211 waiver. But until something changes in Albany, the double dips will keep on coming. State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli is in charge of the pension system, so we wanted to ask him about 211 waivers. His office says he's not available for an interview. The former SUNY Cobleskill chief has now been promoted to the deputy commissioner of SUNY Police. SUNY says he's now over 65, so he no longer needs a waiver. We tried to get in touch with him. He didn't return our calls. Asa Stackel, News Channel 13. These guys are the future of freestyle. But we're not talking half pipes and rails. It's the quad-burning, tight-turning, short skis through moguls into big jumps type of freestyle.
We want to get those knees working up and down.
That's Loudonville's freestyle Olympian Bruce Boleski, who's coaching the next generation at Stratton Mountain School. This is his 16-year-old son, Blake, a student. The kids here ski in the morning and get their schooling in the afternoon. They come from all over for the winter semester, but the tricks begin in the off-season. Back in Loudonville, Blake has a trampoline in the backyard. Before he masters the flips and spins on skis, he does them in sneakers. It's about being comfortable and having awareness while high above the ground. And once you nail it on the trampoline, you nail it in the pool. Boleski has 4 summer camps at Lake Placid. Kids between 10 and 16 work on their twister spreads, 360s, and getting that first backflip in the much more forgiving chlorinated water.
Don't look down. Why? Because then you'll belly flop and it's gonna hurt.
I love being in the air. It's kind of exhilarating and it gets your adrenaline going.
Nick Scheid is from Voorheesville. He started skiing at 6 and started freestyle at 9. He just nailed his first backflip the summer before.
I sat up there for 20 minutes just thinking about it, and I was really scared. And then when I did it, I fell, but I felt great about trying it.
Blake, a little older, he's a role model of sorts here.
Once you're in the air, you don't even feel anything. I don't feel anything. I just think about my trick and just try to stomp it.
The reality is, most of these kids won't make the Olympics, but some have.
4 athletes who've made it to the Olympics over my years, and like I said, I don't throw the Olympics out there for the kids to just say, we're going to be an Olympian.
But there are plenty of lessons to be learned in the pool, on the trampoline, or on the snow at Stratton. Boleski says most things in life suddenly seem a lot less scary after landing your first backflip on skis.